Hello everybody, this is Gregory with 5-Minute Catholic Apologetics, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today we're going to give 6 or 7 reasons why traditional Catholics should not become Orthodox. Now before we begin, let's start with the prayer. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti, Amen. Gloria Patri et Filii et Spiritui Sancto, sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper et secula seculorum. Amen. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti, Amen. All right, so I don't really have any standalone episodes on Orthodoxy. I think probably the one where I touch upon it the most would be the episode entitled Why All These Different Christian Denominations Are Not the True Church. So I'll put a banner for that. There is a growing diaspora. I wouldn't say it's large, but there is a diaspora of tradcasts that are going to the Orthodox faith, typically the ROKOR, the Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia, because they're typically seen, the Russian Orthodoxy is typically seen as the most traditional of the autocephalic world of Orthodoxy. We'll talk about some of this later on. And I think some of the people that go from being Catholic to Orthodoxy go for misguided reasons. And I think this is why I want to do an episode on this. Now, we're not really going to delve into the history because we did talk about the history of why Orthodoxy broke away in our schismatics from the true Holy Mother Church. We're not going to spend too much time on that. And I would say like the same reasons why the Orthodox broke away from Holy Mother Church is the same reason why I think trad cats and liberal cats break away from Holy Mother Church. We say it's theological reasons, but it really wasn't. If you look at the schism, the 1054 schism, and a lot of that was just political and personal grudges, and then certainly with the sacking of Constantinople in 1204 by the Latin Knights, that kind of sealed the deal. But a lot of it, we like to say it's the filioque and some other things, but really it's not. That's all a front. It's all a front. But either way, here are the main issues. Like, I think some traditional Catholics think, well, I need to leave the Holy Catholic Church because it's an apostasy, because it's fallen away, and because we're being attacked by all these liberal issues and so forth. And so I want to go to a place that is a respite from that. And so many of them will go to, let's say, a Russian Orthodox Church or Greek Orthodox or Serbian Orthodox, whatever's in your general area. And they come in and they see the liturgy, and the liturgy is top notch. I'm not going to deny that Orthodox liturgy. I mean, and I've jokingly said about this in one of the live streams. It's like, how do we ever expect the Orthodox to come back when they have this beautiful liturgy that, stretches back centuries? And I think we have an episode here on St. John Chrysostom. I think I know that the Catholic rites use St. John Chrysostom's liturgy. But we have this ancient liturgy that the Orthodox use, and then they come and check out our Novus Ordo masses with liturgical dance and all these abuses. They're like, what? Really? You're really going to buy us with this? Really? But so a lot of Catholics will go to the Orthodox, and they'll kind of overlook the fact that it's very homo-ethnic in that, like my big fat Greek wedding, you might go to a Greek Orthodox and you're like the only non-Greek, but they'll overcome it because of the liturgy and because they know there's apostolic succession and so forth. But look, behind that is you got to look at some of the issues that are in Orthodoxy. And if you think you're going to escape some of the more controversial issues that are making the church torn asunder over in Rome, you'd be sadly mistaken if you don't think you're going to find them in the Orthodox world and other issues. So let's cover some basic theological issues. So the Orthodox, because I think in some ways, so we have the playlist on the ecumenical councils, and I have not done one since I think Chalcedon, I think was the last one I did. But I understand like the Greek and the Latin world share 7 ecumenical councils, and then after that we started to break away. And then the Latin Rite had 14 more or something like that. And the Eastern Rite didn't have as many. But I think in general, theological developments, I think developed more better in the West than in the East, where things were fleshed out better. Whereas in Orthodoxy, I still think there's more of an obscurantist view because they just didn't they didn't really delve into those theological discussions as much. So as such, you're going to see some differences over there. Like, for example, on the Marian dogma, while both sides celebrate the Assumption of Mary, they don't believe in the Immaculate Conception. Now, when I say they, understand that unlike the Catholic Church, which is under essentially one boss, the Pope, Orthodoxy is autocephalic, meaning that they have different groups. Now, a lot of this came from the Pentarchy, or the original 5 bishoprics, which was constant Rome. Rome should always be first. Rome, Constantinople, Jerusalem, Antioch, and Alexandria. And they over there believe much more in a kind of like a collegial view of ecclesiology and how to run the church, whereas we definitely look at the primacy of Rome, and you can look at the church fathers for that. Of course, the Orthodox would disagree with that. But later on, then you got the Russian Orthodox, because after Constantinople was sacked in 1453, Moscow was trying to grow its power, so we're the third Rome. And then later you saw Bulgaria have their own church, Serbia had their own church, and there's some other ones. So there's 5 or 6, and their own little churches with their own governing authority. And honestly, in each of these areas, their theology is going to differ. But more importantly, they're infighting. They can't even get together, the Orthodox faith. And I want to mention, there's probably an estimate 300 million in the world, maybe 3 million in the U.S. In the U.S., it's not a large amount compared to Catholicism, which has 1.2 billion in the world, more or less. But they can't even get together and get together to discuss issues in the Orthodox world. They're always squabbling. You look recently, the Russian Orthodox and the Greek Orthodox, they're in schism. They're in schisming each other. The Russian Orthodox essentially excommunicated the Patriarch of Constantinople. So neither side is really talking. And again, it's chaos. So once you leave, and the same thing you see in Protestantism, right? So once you leave the bosom of Holy Mother Church under the primacy of Rome, what happens? Breakaway, fighting, where they're not even getting along. So yes, you're going to see some internecine discussions in Catholicism between the left and the right, but we still are under the auspices of Rome. But in Orthodoxy, it's not. So when I say that they don't believe, just understand that there's nothing really uniform. Now, certainly there's going to be certain theological uniformity, but in some areas there's not. So, for example, Immaculate Conception, they don't really believe in the Immaculate Conception. Purgatory. Now, they don't really believe in purgatory either. I mean, they believe like you should pray for the dead, but the whole like kind of fleshed out concept of a place of purification. Again, remember the Catechism, purgatory has like just only 3 things you need to believe about it. It's not really fleshed out. The Church's teachings is not really fleshed out about it, but it is one of the dogmas of the faith that you need to believe in. But they don't believe in purgatory. Divorce and remarriage is very prevalent over there, very prevalent. So they don't not believe in the indissolubility of marriage. And of course, if any of you are ROCO or whatever you're listening to, you're going to disagree maybe. But as a whole, the emphasis is not there. Now you can say what you want about Catholic divorce, which is annulments, and we have episodes here on it. But we do officially believe in the indissolubility of marriage. Whereas over there, like in the Protestants, it's just kind of willy-nilly. Original sin, they don't necessarily believe in the kind of like St. Augustine version of original sin. They kind of believe more in the ancestral sin that we got from Adam and Eve. And so you're looking at major theological differences. Also, if you're wanting to go there because you think I want to get away from the liberal issues that are afflicting Rome with transgenderism and homosexual marriage and all these other things, you'd be sadly mistaken, because the same issues are affecting the Orthodox churches over there. And the Orthodox churches over here too. I mean, there is a battle again, because this battle from the liberal side is coming from government, it's coming from academia, it's coming from social media, it's coming from like all angles. So it's not just going to target the Catholic Church. It's going to target us because we're the largest Christian group in the world, but it's targeting the Orthodox too. And so the Orthodox, to their credit, still do not believe in homosexual marriage, for example. But there is dissension in the different autocephalic churches over there, and there are liberal factions just like there are in the Catholic Church. So if you're wanting to escape just for that, it's over there. And look, this is what I would say. Look, even Lumen Gentium, Vatican Council II document, paragraph 14, says there's no salvation outside of the Catholic Church. Now, people give Vatican II a hard time, but if you read the actual documents coming out of it, like Musicum Sacrum, where it talks about how Gregorian chant should still be the preferred style of music, and then you see the kind of music that eventually came out only like 6 years later when we rolled out the NO Mass. But if you look at the writing of Vatican II documents, they are what we would perceive to be pretty traditional, pretty Orthodox, so to speak. Not like a Greek Orthodox, but Orthodox. But it talks about, like, if you're leaving the church, by definition, you are a schismatic. And we have an episode here about Pope Francis saying that Jews and Muslims and schismatics and heretics can go to heaven. But historically speaking, Council of Trent, Council of Florence, Vatican I, all these previous councils will say that schismatics cannot go to heaven. You can only go to heaven through the Catholic Church. So my admonition to you is, I understand why people go Orthodox. The main selling point for Orthodoxy is the liturgy. Absolutely. But here's my retort to you. If it's the liturgy, that's great. Well, then go to an Eastern Catholic Rite liturgy. There's 23 rites in the church. Latin, of course, is the biggest one. And most Latin rite masses are in the vernacular. But there's Ruthenian, there's the Byzantine, there's the Malabar. I mean, there's tons of them. So if you really like the liturgy, I would tell you, leaving Holy Mother Church and essentially being a schismatic, and look, there's extenuating circumstances why you might have left church. Maybe you were abused by a priest, or you're a material heretic, like you just don't know any better, invincible ignorance, so to speak. But as a whole, I mean, why would you want to leave the bosom of Holy Mother Church, the church founded on Peter by Jesus Christ? And of course, like the Orthodox will exegete out Matthew 16:18 just the same way the Protestants do, even though the current literature of the last 40 years, even the Protestants will agree, is that the rock in Matthew 16:18 is in fact Peter. But either way, I mean, you can exegete that all you want, but why leave the church? What are you going to? You're going to, yes, an organization, because I can't even call it a church, because again, it's separate independent churches that can't even get together, and they're excommunicating each other. But why are you going to go to that where it's the Wild Wild West, where again, once you leave Rome, it's breakaway, chaos. Why are you going to leave that and endanger your possible salvation by leaving the church, and you're one step further away from being in union with Christ? And of course, the Orthodox would disagree with what I'm saying, which is totally fine. But why are you going to do that for the liturgy if there's perfectly good liturgies that are in communion with Rome? So just go to a Byzantine Catholic. I remember hearing on EWTN quite a few of those guys as personalities on EWTN go to Eastern Rite. I know some of them go Latin Rite too, or Latin Mass, I should say, but they go Eastern Rite. So why not stay in union with Rome, and you get the best of both worlds? You're still in union with Rome, but you're getting your liturgy expression, so to speak, out by going to a good Eastern liturgy. And I think that's a win-win. Now, a lot of people who've left the church will say, and I only got a minute to talk because these minute videos have to be less than 15 minutes. Now they'll say, oh, it's because of the Filioque, or it's because the church is in apostasy. And I'll go back to the episode that I did. Traditionalists focus more on praying and less on the apostasy. And I would say that there's a question of rebellion, there's a question of the sin of singularity, there's a question of a sin of pride. When you say all these things, like, I know for sure the church is in apostasy, or I know better than Holy Mother Church. I just think we're going down a slippery road. So how about have some humility? And if you I understand why you want to leave the church. The church, this is not the best place the church has been right now. I understand why you leave that, but leaving the church is not the solution. The solution is fighting for the church, evangelizing, and staying in Holy Mother Church. And again, just go to an Eastern liturgy, my brothers and sisters. Guys, post in the comments. Let me know if you don't agree, or if you think I'm misrepresenting the Orthodox faith. I'd like to hear from you. Maybe we'll have an Orthodox person come on and we can discuss these things. Hit the notification, subscribe, and share button. Share with like-minded people. Until next time, take care. God bless and pray.